Welcome back to part 4 of our series on live streaming from scratch on Happy Place Home Studio. In this episode, we're going to show you how to go to 4K streaming with your OBS setup on your Mac computer. And of course, much of what we talk about will also apply to a PC. But this is one area where your setup on a PC and your setup on a Mac can be quite different, because 4K touches a lot of very technical areas, such as your video card and your bandwidth. Some of these issues become really important if you're going to get optimum performance and produce a really high quality product, which is one of the desires of people with 4K, is to put out the highest quality stream that they can. A lot of today's live streamers, especially the professionals that make a living at it, are all using 4K and starting to use even higher on some services. So you'll find that there's a little bit more demanding requirements for 4K than some of the things that we've talked about before. Now, if you don't have any intention of going to 4K, or at least not at this time, you can skip this video and move on to part 5. I'm actually recording this particular video in 4K. And having learned some of the things that I've learned about it, I might use 4K from now on. It's really not that difficult depending on your setup, but that is something that we'll find there are a lot of dependencies. Now, some things that I have found very cool about 4K is you can still use your non-4K cameras and other non-4K elements in your videos. So for example, I'm recording this on one of my Sony cameras, which is not only a 4K camera, but can actually stream out of the mini HDMI in 4K, and that's really important. I've mentioned before that I have a really nice Blackmagic design camera, but it will only put out through the mini HDMI interface, it will only put out at 1080p. So here's my 4K camera, and let's take a look at my non-4K camera. It still works, and I can still cut it in with the rest of my 4K video, but it itself is in 1080p. Now, if you're like me, because my eyesight's not that good, I can't really tell the difference, but you probably can. Here's what a screen capture looks like with this particular setup, which is also very cool, because with 4K, you're going to get a lot more of an image than you might have in other resolutions. So this is just a YouTube website. But you can see I get quite a bit of information on the screen with this. Now, there are some issues that you have to be concerned with when you deal with 4K. For example, when you're recording in 4K, as I am right now, the file sizes are huge. Obviously, when you're streaming with 4K, it requires a lot of bandwidth. You're really going to be streaming at a high bit rate. And so, I use YouTube, and everything I'm showing you is YouTube. You're going to have really good bandwidth to be able to do a stream that doesn't have problems for your viewers, that isn't hitching and pausing and that type of thing in the middle of your stream. One of the things that I'll do is I'll do a stream and actually take the video I record off of YouTube and put it in this video for you, so you can see what the resolution looks like and what the stream itself looks like. So let's start diving in. One of the things you can count on, of course, is that I'm also going to point you to some other resources on YouTube, because there are some very expert people that have put together some really nice video resources for you to look at, so that you will have a little bit better coverage depending on the setup that you have. Let's dive in and start learning about live streaming in 4K on Happy Place Home Studio. The first thing you'll need for 4K streaming, true 4K streaming in 4K resolutions, is a 4K capable camera. Here's one. This is a Sony Handycam FDR AX53, and I've talked about this camera before. It's a terrific camera. It's great for live streaming. It's mid-range in price. It's around $950 to $1,000, and of course there are less expensive cameras, but this one works very, very well. One of the things that you'll need to understand about 4K streaming is you don't always have to stream in 4K, as I've illustrated before. But the idea is that you will stream in 4K resolutions to get that highest level of quality that you can. The second thing you'll need for 4K streaming is a 4K capable interface to take your high bitrate HDMI signal from your camera and translate it to something that your computer can understand, USB 2, 3, C, etc. This is the Camlink 4K from Elgato, and this has a USB 3 interface, which you can use an adapter to get to USB-C, as I've illustrated on previous videos. Now you'll notice that I'm showing you this not at 4K and not on my 4K camera because I need this to do 4K. So I'm showing you this on my Blackmagic camera, which is going through a different interface. Regardless, you need something to get that high bitrate signal to your computer, and that's one way of many out there to do it. The third thing you're going to need for 4K streaming, if you want to deliver an excellent experience for your viewers, is a high bandwidth connection to the internet. Now I have a 1 gig dedicated connection. It doesn't require that much, but you do want to have higher than normal. Now the good news is that almost all internet connections these days are getting better, faster, more capable. 5G, very capable of carrying this type of connection. So in the future, this will be a non-issue. But for right now, you want to make sure you have the kind of bandwidth that you need to do a great stream and a great experience for your viewers. Okay, having met the prerequisites, it's now time to actually set up OBS for 4K streaming. I'm in OBS and I have simply turned off the video to avoid the distraction. So what we want to do is we're going to go into settings and we're going to start with the video settings. Okay, we have two resolutions to change. Our base resolution is the top field. You'll find that you can't get to the 4K resolution. You have to type it in manually. So we'll do that right now. For 4K, the resolution is 3840 by 2160. Now once you have typed that in to the top resolution field, you'll be able to set your output resolution to that same value. If you try to set it before, you'll find it isn't there. Now for our filter, we want to choose 36. Yours may start out on 30, but go ahead and go to 36. And those are really the only things that we need to change here in the video settings. The next area we'll visit is the output settings. So we'll change several things here in the output, starting with, at the top, change from simple to advanced mode. You notice there's 4 different areas of settings. We're really only going to be dealing with the streaming settings. Keep your audio track on audio number 1 and change your encoder to the Apple hardware encoder. Post-production discontinuity alert. I'm back with more facts. I want to give you a little more information about the hardware encoder. So this is a very important aspect. You want to use a hardware encoder to offload the very high processing load that's put on your main processor to your graphics processor. And the easiest way to do that is with a hardware encoder. Now, if you choose X256, it will work, especially on a modern fast computer, but it puts a lot of extra load and can cause a reduction in quality in your 4K stream. If you're on a late model Apple computer, as this video is oriented towards, then the easy choice is just to use the Apple encoder. And that's the selection that I made in this video. That is courtesy of version 25 and later of OBS, because before that, that hardware encoder really did not work. Now, if you're on a PC, there are many encoders available, and if you have an NVIDIA video card, there's an NVIDIA encoder available, and I have linked an excellent video for you to watch from a YouTube guru on the subject, And I highly suggest you check that out anyway, because it's just a good source of information. Okay, continuing on, the next setting that we'll deal with is our bitrate. You're going to change this to 6,000 kbps. That means for every second you are recording 6 megabytes. And that is the settings that we want to change here. Our next task is to test our 4K stream. And to do that, we'll go into YouTube Studio as we've done before. All right, we'll start by clicking Content on the left-hand side, and then Live at the top left. And we'll follow that up by, in the top right, clicking Create. And we want to go live. We'll schedule a stream, again in the top right of the YouTube interface, and this is the YouTube Studio interface, by the way. Now, since we've already done a stream, we'll reuse the settings from that stream, and most of the settings are already correct. But we'll change the name and do some housekeeping as part of the scheduling. Now, one thing to note is that since we have the automatically go live when we start the stream with OBS set, it really doesn't matter what time we use. We'll just use the time that it defaults to. So I'm just changing a couple of the descriptions here. It's not critically important. And then we'll just accept the date and time, which will work just fine. Don't need to worry about the thumbnail, even though the Seahawks are long out of the playoffs. And we're ready to go ahead and save that and schedule the stream. Now, when we get the entry in the upcoming list here, we'll go ahead and just click on the title to go in and edit the settings and review them. The only thing I really want here is to copy the stream key, so we'll do that. But other settings that we created as a default are already set here. The one thing that I didn't change on this screen that I should have is I should have changed in the lower left normal latency to low latency. Note that you cannot use ultra low latency. When we roll back over to OBS, we'll paste our stream key into our settings stream, and we'll click OK. We're then ready to start the stream. So in just a couple of moments here, I'm going to start the stream by clicking on Start Stream in the control panel. We'll do that in 3, 2, 1. Now we're doing this in real time. So once I click Start, you'll see how long it will take to actually start the stream, because we're going to roll back over to the YouTube Studio to monitor the start and finish of the stream. So going back over to YouTube Studio, here we are. Now, what's in the upper left only appears at the same time that it would appear for your viewers. So you'll see that lag of 20 to 25 seconds, and then the stream has started. Now, in real time, as I recorded this, I just now gave a thumbs up sign. So from that point, you'll see it's that same 20 to 25 seconds for the thumbs up to appear, and immediately after that, I stop the stream. So the fact that this is appearing is proof positive that your 4K is working, that your 4K stream is working, and you are ready to rock and roll. Earlier in this video, I promised that I would give you an example of actual live streaming, and that time has come. The way that I've created this segment of the video is that I actually streamed it out to YouTube in full 4K, and then I downloaded the video so that you would see what the stream actually looked like. So if there were hitches, you're going to see them. If there were glitches, you're going to see them. This is a 4K stream that was done directly out to YouTube. There's a lot to 4K, and I learned things just in making this video in 4K. For example, you may have noticed white lines and things between my little foam blocks up here that never showed up in less than 4K before. So you do have to be aware of those types of things. 4K is reality. I mean, people are going to see what's really going on. There's a lot of other technical aspects as well. You may not have the camera or the Camlink, and so obviously you may need to rely on other resources. And I've linked some resources down below this video. I hope that you have enjoyed part 4 of our series, Live Streaming from Scratch, produced by Happy Place Home Studio for your enjoyment. I look forward to any comments that you have, any feedback at all. I can take it. Thank you for joining us, and enjoy 4K streaming.